Hello guys, welcome to another session. In this session, we are going to look into all about variables, constant and comments. So let's jump into the Visual Studio Code to understand this topic. So we are into the Visual Studio Code. Now let's understand that what actually variables is. Variables is one of the important concept not only in JavaScript, it is also very important concept of any programming language. Whether you are learning Python, whether you are learning JavaScript, C Sharp, Java, and any other language. And in all the language, the concept of the variable is same. And the concept is variable is one of the mechanism by which you can store the values, any values, name, number, date, boolean, true, false. And once you store the values, then you can use that variable within the program anywhere. So now the next question over here is that how we can create the variable. So to answer your question, I can tell that there are various ways to create the variable. So first way we will look into that, we will tell that there is a keyword called let, and then you will tell the name of the variable which you want to keep. I'm going to tell that the variable name is course name, for example mastering JavaScript. So here course name is a variable where I am storing mastering JavaScript string. So here with the help of this course name variable we are storing this value and we can use it further anywhere within the file. So how we can access, for example, if we want to print this value into the console, so what we need to do, we need to tell that console.log and the name of the variable. So it will print that value into the console. Let's save it. Let's look into the browser console. So here you will find that it has printed mastering JavaScript. That's what we stored in the variable. Now let's proceed further. Now we will discuss about reusability of the variable. We can use the same variable which we have defined earlier. We can use it now to initialize some other values onto the variable. So let's look into that. If you will write that course name, now you don't need to define again with the help of let keyword. You just need to reassign it. So how we can reassign it? We will tell that the variable name, then equal to sign, and we will tell that this time mastering web development semicolon, save it. Now let's look into the browser console. Prior to looking into browser console, we must have to print it after this, else it will print this value only and we will not get the course name. So let's write it over here, save it. Now let's jump into the console. Now you will find it over here that it has printed mastering web development. So the earlier output was mastering JavaScript. Let's clear this console. How you can clear it? There is this icon. You need to click on clear console. Now let's reload it so that you will get the what is inside the variable. So let's reload it. And here you will find that it has printed only the mastering web development as it was later initialized with this string. Now let's proceed further. Now what I want at any point of time, if I assign a variable, that should not be changed. So how we can do that? So there is another keyword that is called const that we will use to define our variable. So how we can do that? So we will use the const keyword over here and the name of the variable. For example, we want to tell that gender. We are going to store the gender in a variable called gender. So let's write it, male, save it. Now later point of time, whenever you want to change into this variable, it will not accept. It will throw error. So let's try to do that. So now I want to assign from gender male to female, and here we will save it, and when we will go to the console log, then we will get the error. So here you will see that it is showing us two errors we got. So click on that, then you will find it is telling assignment to constant variable. That is not allowed. That's the reason it throws the error. So let's go back to the Visual Studio Code. One thing you noted down, the let and the const keyword is the latest addition in the JavaScript. This is modern way to create the variable within the JavaScript language. So one rule of thumb you should remember whenever you are creating a variable, when to use let and when to use constant. Whenever the value of the variable is getting changed, you should go with let. And whenever there is a no change and the value is going to be constant, most of the time gender is going to be constant. So that means here we need to specify the gender with the const keyword. So here you must be asking, these are the new way to create the variable. So what is the older way and what is the older mechanism to create the variable within JavaScript? So there is another keyword which was mainly used earlier to declare the variable, and the keyword we used earlier was var. So we need to specify the var and the name of the variable. and the variable this time we are going to use age, and we will tell 68. So let's console log it. So let's write console dot log, and we will tell that print age and semicolon. Let's remove this one so that we will not get error. Save it. Let's jump into the browser console. So here you will find it has console log the value 68 for the age variable. Now let's proceed further. Now let's discuss about some of the general rules while declaring your variables. And the rules are you are not allowed to provide the spaces between the variable name. So the moment you will give the spaces, then editor itself throws the error. So a variable name should not contain the space. This is the rule number 1. And the rule number 2 is it is always better to provide the camel casing for the variable name. Camel casing means the first word should have the smaller case, and then afterward the other word should start with the capital letter. This way of declaring the variable or defining the variable is called camel casing. So it is always a good practice, and this is a recommended practice within the industry. The third point and another point you should remember that a variable name should not start with the number. The moment if you write number in front of the variable name, it will throws error. See here, it has thrown error. The editor itself, it is not allowed within the JavaScript. But you can use the number within the variable name anywhere apart from the starting character. For example, course name 12, this is allowed. Then you can use underscore also within the variable. Another point you should remember, you can't use reserve keyword for variable name. For example, here reserve keyword is like let, const, var. So these are the reserve keyword. You can't create a variable name called var. The moment you will write it, it will throws error. So you should make sure that this word doesn't belong to the reserve keyword. So let's change it. I will share some of the references which you can refer to get the detail about the reserve keyword within JavaScript. Another point you should remember, and this is not related to JavaScript programming, you can use it for any of the programming language. Whenever you create a variable, you should provide something meaningful name so that it will represent the context of the variable. For example, if you are writing something regarding the course, you should have a variable name called course name. If you are designing some of the application for online course, so this really helps to other developer who actually working along with you in the project. They can also understand what is the context of this particular variable. So it is always recommended that you should provide something meaningful name to the variable name. So now one of the important point which I wanted to discuss is that is documentation of your code. Whenever you are writing any of the application in any of the language, you should document your code. So how you can document your code? So to document our code, what we need to do, we need to use, there is something called comments, and in JavaScript it offers two type of comment. One is inline comment and second one is the block comment. So for inline comment we use double slash and then whatever we want to print. For example, why we are using course name, so variable to store course name, so it will telling course name variable is used to store the course name. So this way other programmer, whoever is looking into your code, they can easily understand it. This is one of the way you can define the documentation with the help of inline comment. There is another way you can use the block comment. So how we can define the block comment? Slash star again star close. So this is now block comment, and the benefit of using block comment is that you can write any number of line within and that is not being passed by JavaScript interpreter. So this you will write, this code block will never be executed within the page as it is a comment. So you can use it for documentation, and whatever the detail which you want to provide for this particular block of code, you can write it over here. Gender for holding gender detail, age for age detail, something like that. Whatever you are writing, you can write it over here as a documentation, and this is really a good practice. One more point for comment is that you can't only use for the documentation, you can use comment the block as well. Suppose if you are writing some code and you want to retain that piece of code within the file but you don't want to execute it, so in that case you can comment that block by using inline, or if you want to comment all the blocks, so you can use the block comment like this. So whenever this program will run, it will not execute the commented code. Another point which I wanted to discuss about, whenever you are using let and const, so it is always recommended you should use the Chrome browser. If you are using some old browser like i8, i9 or i11, it is not being supported within that browser. So it is always recommended to use the Chrome browser. So on this note, I'm stopping over here. See you in the next session. Till then, bye bye. Take care.